Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Extra Serving, a podcast by Nation's Restaurant News. I am your host, Holly Petrie. Today on the pod, we're going to be talking about new merchandise lines. Panera, Chick-fil-A, and Sweetgreen have all recently launched merchandise lines. Do they help with brand awareness and virality? Next, we'll be talking about traffic. It seems to be turning around at several of the biggest brands, including McDonald's, Chipotle, and Subway. This quarterly earnings season, it seems that traffic is the biggest sticking point for brands, and after years of traffic declines, things seem to be turning around. Finally, we'll be talking about Taco Bell, my favorite. The brand is turning once again to Pete Davidson for his latest breakfast campaign. We've talked about using celebrities to promote your brand before, but this latest campaign begs the question, is breakfast back? This week's guest is AJ Kumaran, co-CEO of Raising Cane's. Now it's time to introduce my co-hosts.
I'm Sam Okus, Editor-in-Chief of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I'm Leanne Zinsmeister, Managing Editor of Nation's Restaurant News.
And I will say, just to address that Taco Bell story, I did have Taco Bell for breakfast today. It was leftover Taco Bell from yesterday, but it was still Taco Bell for breakfast. So I don't know if that counts for their breakfast business.
It does
spread
not.
The love around.
I know whether it does, and it does not.
I think you have a Taco Bell problem now, though. I mean, for all of the QSR brands that you have never visited, you're just going really deep into Taco Bell. So I don't know if you've got like 2 years of KFC coming up or what, but like you can spread it around, Holly.
I don't love fried chicken, so I don't think I have 2 years of KFC coming up.
Or Wendy's. Isn't Wendy's one you've never been to?
No, remember we ate Wendy's on the air.
Oh, true. Yep.
That was a thing we did, and it was delicious. I will say that food was exceptionally good.
Well, our next video series from NRN will be, where will Holly eat next for the first time?
I ate White Castle for the first time in front of you. Some of the ones that you cooked, actually.
Yeah, and no wonder you got food poisoning.
Does it
Viewers,
count
I did not get food poisoning.
That was by the way, a
that
comment
day.
about... That was a comment about me cooking and not a comment about White Castle, I should clarify, because White Castle is very yum. My cooking, however, not always.
I was going to ask if it counts as eating White Castle, if it's just Sam cooking in White Castle's kitchen.
With White Castle ingredients, according to White Castle recipes,
Yeah,
with a White
he
Castle
had
executive standing next to me.
Yeah, he was trained. I was there. I watched it. He was trained. I mean, he didn't really do the buns properly, but, he was still trained.
Yeah, I've seen these videos. I don't know.
While we're on the subject, we should tell everybody. We just won an award for our White Castle story, which was in October of last year, the Brand Icons story. We just won Best Multimedia Profile for that, so hooray.
And where did we win the award from?
The Neal Awards, the Jesse H. Neal Awards, which are, like the Oscars of B2B media. So, I think we did pretty good.
We did great.
I like that you described it as the Oscars.
If listeners want to read this story or watch a video of Sam cooking sliders for Holly, or lots of other interesting things, they can do that at nrn.com/white-castle.
Or as
Thanks,
Sam
Leanne.
liked to say, dash.
Dash. Makes more sense to me. It's easier to say.
nrn.com/white-castle. Whichever of those things you want to do.
I prefer
One
hyphen.
syllable.
I much prefer hyphen.
That's 2 syllables. I'm being efficient in my words.
Efficiency.
What was that episode of some show where somebody was like, I'm taking out all of the inefficiencies in my talk, like in the way that I talk, and they were just like saying like part of the word. I forget. This reference is really going out of control.
Bad story.
But...
If you don't have the answer ready to go, really bad direction to go.
It was quite funny because they were just like, you, me, go, shop.
I trust you, Holly. I believe you.
Did they say it like slow and choppy like that? Because that's not very efficient at all. If you have to think hard about being efficient, it's not working.
That's very true. You know what? That's a good point, Leanne. If you have to think about it, it's not efficient.
Yeah.
It should just flow. The efficiency should just flow.
This is a good segue now into talking about restaurants, I think.
I really think it is.
Is it? I don't know. I don't feel like...
Restaurants want to be efficient. We are writing a lot of stories about that right now.
Aren't we ever?
Yes, lots of stories about efficiency. So you know what? Let's skip over the first thing that we were going to talk about, and let's go right to traffic, because that's part of the efficiency story. Is you get your efficiency up, and hopefully your traffic increases too. So Several brands have been seeing increased traffic according to their latest quarterly reports. I mean, we're just getting to start earnings season, the best season of the year. So that happens 4 times a year. So it's the best 4-time-a-year season, which I guess we have in the seasons of the year. So I'm really falling off the track here.
Oh, just move along, Holly. Just
I
move
have
along.
lost the thread of this already. I have no idea what we're talking about.
So McDonald's, Chipotle, and Subway have all reported, though Subway is not a publicly held company, so take it with a grain of salt, but McDonald's and Subway have both reported that traffic is up. And up by a decent amount. I mean, considering we've seen traffic declines for the past however long, at least 2 years, that we're seeing traffic go up again, which is really nice to hear. I mean, it's a positive sign for the industry, and I think it's like a nice little smile moment for all of us. What do you guys think?
Sure, if that's what you want to call it. I think the big picture that you can take from all of this is that the economy may not be doing as badly as we thought, or that we were not heading toward recession. I mean, traffic was a huge issue for the entire industry for a long time, still is. But these seem to be indications that that issue is turning around. Sales have been up. Mostly because of price increases, but now sales are up for some of these companies, like the ones you mentioned, Holly, because of both price increases and traffic increases. And that's really a good sign. Chipotle, for example, is a good sign as Leanne gets so bored of this. She's typing on her computer, responding to emails. Yes, I can hear that, Leanne. She's like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Constantly just fact checking you as you talk is what I'm really doing.
All right. Well, there's a mute button for a reason. Anyway, so Chipotle is a good example of what this means for the industry, because Chipotle had been reporting that the lower income consumer was trading down. And that they were losing that consumer, but Chipotle has just reported that they're getting that lower income consumer back, which is a good sign, because lower income consumers tend to trade down as we go into recession. And so all the indications where we're heading into recession, consumers are trading down. Just look at the proof in something a company like Chipotle, but now that's starting to reverse. So that's not to say that the recession is definitely not happening, but it just seems like all the indications are that the trade down has perhaps slowed, that people are once again returning to their favorite restaurants, even the higher end ones. Inflation is still bad. I think broadly, of course, I'm not an economist, but my guess is that people just have accepted inflation is just kind of a part of life right now. Everywhere is more expensive. And so they're not necessarily making, not as many of them are making their decisions about where to shop and where to eat based on that alone.
I think that's definitely true. I mean, the menu price increases have definitely slowed down in recent quarters, but it's not like prices are falling. At Chipotle, menu prices on average are still 10% higher than they were a year ago. And so I do think some consumers have just accepted that fact, or have forgotten that their bowl used to be $1 cheaper or what have you, and have returned to Chipotle. Chipotle also, to Holly's point, started implementing a lot of operational changes last summer, and they're starting to see the fruit of some of that. They called these improvements Project Square One. I don't know why. In fact, I had never heard of it until yesterday. I don't know if I should admit that on the air. Maybe they kept it on the DL until they were sure it worked, and now they're like, yeah, we did this thing last summer and it worked. And one of the positive consequences of that is that they have much lower turnover now. So they're not spending as much time recruiting and training new workers, and the workers they have are efficient at their jobs and can move people through the line faster. They've made some changes to how the make line works. So all of those changes are kind of coming together for Chipotle, and apparently for some other brands, to result in some positive traffic numbers.
Well, I'm thinking back to Texas Roadhouse in the first quarter of the year, how that was such an anomaly to see this traffic increase that we were seeing from Texas Roadhouse. And now we're seeing all these brands in Q2 with traffic increases, and now it's looking more like a trend. But back then, Texas Roadhouse was standing out from the crowd so far above everybody else that we were just like, what is happening? And now we're seeing the not the lower brands, but like more QSR and fast casuals are starting to see traffic increases as well. So it's kind of nice to see that. But I mean, it was such a shock when Texas Roadhouse came out that we were like, what is happening?
Yeah, it's all a good sign. It's a good sign that like the things are all moving in the restaurant's favor, in that if traffic comes back, they're getting more efficient. They're going to increase their profitability. Sales can go up, but it will be interesting to see if like they cut costs or cut prices because of this, right? Because if they do become more efficient and the traffic returns and inflation is going down, I mean, the inflation's getting better, we think, then theoretically you could be in a good spot to cut your prices. Maybe they're holding that for like a summer marketing campaign. Hey, we just cut our prices, but or they just think, yeah, everybody got used to it and we're just going to increase our profitability and roll on.
I am curious to see what happens as the casual dining companies start reporting. I mean, Texas Roadhouse was such a big shock for a lot of reasons, one of which is that they're a casual dining company. And that was really unusual to see in that economic climate. Darden reported in March. They're always a little bit off schedule from the rest of the industry. And I don't have their traffic numbers in front of me, but their overall same-store sales went up by double digits. Dave & Buster's saw a huge traffic increase, but that's not super surprising when you think about where we all were a year ago. So that's what I'm really curious to see, because we've mostly just heard from quick service chains and companies this week and fast casual. BJ's is reporting this afternoon. It's currently Thursday. So listeners, by the time you hear this, we'll have a little more information. But currently, it's a bit of a mystery as to how the full-service brands are going to be reporting.
Not a mystery at NRN.com.
No, go check it out and see what we think. Because currently, I don't know, but like in the future, it'll be out there.
In the future, you'll know everything.
True.
Well, so talking about knowing everything, one of the trends that's going on that we've noticed is merchandise lines. So we have all of these chains coming out with. We know it, Sam. I'm going to say we know everything. I'm just going to say it. I saw you mouth that to me, and I'm going to say that we know everything.
I'm trying to figure out the segue. Continue.
It wasn't a great segue. My brain's a little mushy, but it was not a good segue.
I forgive you.
Thank you. So merchandise lines have been coming out recently at a lot of hotel rooms. So a lot of hotel rooms. I just got an email that I was reading off of.
Oh, yeah. Look who's checking her emails.
It was me this time, Sam. I'm so sorry.
Should I be doing this podcast by myself?
While you were talking.
Am I the only one paying attention here?
All right, so we've seen a lot of merchandise lines at restaurant chains.
Oh, have we?
Maybe you just came up with a new trend without even realizing it. You know, hotel room merchandise line. That could be a cool new thing.
That could be a cool new thing, you know? I actually feel like that would work. So these merchandise lines are coming out at chains like Sweetgreen, Chick-fil-A, and Panera. We've reported on all three. Chick-fil-A came out with them a little over a week ago, so that's a little bit old news. But I was holding up little quote signs. You just can't see them in the thing.
Oh. Just looks like you were making a funny face. I'm like, okay.
And then Sweetgreen and Panera were this week. So we don't know much about the Sweetgreen line, but we do know a little bit more based on Sam's recent conversation with Nathaniel Rue, which you can listen to on Takeaway with Sam Okus, where he did tell us a little bit more about the line, which is going to include homeware, which I found really interesting. In addition to Sam's like, Even, I don't remember that.
No, I remember that. I just don't know what that means. I didn't really know what it meant, so
I was thinking like trays to put your... Yeah, like a throw or like trays to put like jewelry in and like candles and stuff like that was what I was thinking it right away.
Yeah, maybe.
And so, I think that it's interesting to think about Sweetgreen because Nathaniel Rue was talking a lot about on the podcast, which you can listen to at nrn.com/take-away-Sam-Okus.
Goodness gracious, the amount of time we waste on this podcast.
But you can listen to it there or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. But he describes Sweetgreen as a lifestyle brand. That's one of the things that Sam asked him is that, like, what, like, Sweetgreen is known as being a lifestyle brand. How do you translate this? And so that was a really interesting thing, is to listen to him talk about the fact that Sweetgreen is really not just a restaurant brand, and it's not a technology brand either. He was certain to say that, but it's a lifestyle brand. It's all about the fact that you go to Sweetgreen, the fact that you now have this loyalty program that they have. So that was a really interesting point for me that I thought about Sweetgreen versus Panera, which this line of clothing is not so much about being a lifestyle brand. It's more about just like wearing your Panera. Like, they have a bag that fits like a loaf of bread.
Yeah. So right, and I think what's interesting about the Sweetgreen version of this, and we talked last week about Chick-fil-A's sauce line,
and how good they was.
Well, and how good it was, yes. But talking about merchandise as a extension of your brand, right? If you sell your sauces in retail, it's an extension of your brand that people can experience Chick-fil-A in another place, right? And the same goes for all this merchandise from these other brands. But what I think is interesting about the Sweetgreen example is that they are offering exclusives to some of their loyalty, or to their loyalty members, that they can get some things first and things like that. And so to tie it to the loyalty program and what Nathaniel was talking about related to their loyalty program is, he said, some of their customers, they want to go deeper, right? For some, it's just a transaction. They want a salad or a bowl. They walk in, they order it, they go eat lunch, and they're done. For those who want to go one step further, they want to go deeper into the brand. A loyalty program is a version of how you can capitalize on that. But merchandise is another, right? So, as one example, I happen to have a Sweetgreen tote bag I picked up along the way because we get all sorts of random things being a part of this industry. I don't have a Sweetgreen near me, so I really don't even remember how I got this. But I have a Sweetgreen tote bag. And we use it all the time. I mean, we've taken it to the farmer's market before. We have packed our kids' toys in it. And here I am walking around with a Sweetgreen tote bag, and it means nothing in Columbus, Ohio, where they don't have a presence, but it does mean something when we travel and people see it, right? But point is that there are a lot of customers who, very much willingly will want that as the sign of, I am a Sweetgreen customer. That's the getting into that lifestyle brand piece of it. So again, brand extension that merchandise offers, but also give your loyal customers another step deeper into your brand to be that loyal guest.
Well, and Panera is also doing it for their loyalty members as well. So you have to be part of My Panera to get this, at least the exclusive drop. I'm using air quotes again, but my screen's so tiny you can't see. So you have to be part of My Panera to get this exclusive drop at first. That's the same as Sweetgreen. You're being exposed to it first.
Yeah.
And it'll be open to the general public, but like, you're getting these drops before anybody else, and they'll probably sell out before they get to the public.
And it's experiential. I mean, we've talked about this before on the podcast about the fact that loyalty programs are getting more and more based around experiences, not just discounts. All of this also fits into that, which is the experience of, I want to get this piece of merchandise that's exclusive to me and be a part of that tier of people, that status of, I get this and other people don't get it. So it makes a lot of sense, because I think there are a lot of very avid customers of these brands that want to, again, want to have that merchandise, want to have that extra experience.
It's a great way to get people to sign up for your loyalty program. And I was just I've been digging a lot into these loyalty programs lately, because I feel like every day a restaurant does something new or interesting with their loyalty program. So I have some of these stories compiled, and the Chick-fil-A merchandise line is not tied to its loyalty program, I believe. But what's interesting about Chick-fil-A is that they have more than 50 million members in their loyalty program. Sam, I assume you're a member of the Chick-fil-A loyalty program.
Yeah, I am.
Sure is. Why wouldn't he be? Well, you are one of more than 50 million. That's compared to brands that you'd think would have a lot more. Chipotle has about 32 million. Starbucks has about 29 million. And so that might be a case of Chick-fil-A doesn't need to use their merchandise to lure in new loyalty members. But it's great for these brands, especially, Sweetgreen's loyalty program is brand new. It opened up at the same time that this merchandise dropped. And so that's a great way to get people in right away. I bet we'll see. We'll find out when they report next how many people signed up this first week or so for the merchandise.
May 4th. You'll find out on May 4th.
Well, then we probably won't have it when they report the next time they report. Although I wouldn't be surprised if they tell us sooner, because I'm guessing it will be a lot of people will have signed up right at the beginning because of this merchandise. I'm guessing that Panera's numbers are going to skyrocket this quarter as far as loyalty members go. They're also doing like some sort of like Panera week, aren't they, Holly?
Mm-hmm.
You covered
Panera
this.
faves. So they're doing like a week of deals basically, and a lot of it's available only
Right.
through the app. But something that's really interesting about Panera is that they have 52 million members of their loyalty program.
Okay, so my theory doesn't hold up. It's shocking.
Kick her off the podcast. Why are you even here?
That's great. I quit. Don't worry about it.
But so I walked by Sweetgreen this morning, one of my local Sweetgreens. I have several, Sam. Sorry to you.
You live in the biggest city in the country. That adds up.
But they have signs in their windows all about Sweet Pass now. And so one of the things that Nathaniel Rue was saying on the podcast, Sam, is that there's also going to be these like experiential things that you get to do as part of the Sweet Pass Plus, which is their $10 a month program where you get $3 off salads. But there's also going to be these experiential things similar to the Starbucks loyalty app where like once you're part of the app, you get to like go to espresso martini tastings and like special things that you only get to do because you're part of the app. That's part of their whole metaverse thing, but that's a separate thing. But they're going to do all these like kind of things. I'm assuming it's going to be like a build your own salad, like in person, like you get to actually go behind the counter, or like you get to meet the founders, or you get to like go on a trip or something. Like I'm assuming they're going to be things like that. And so I find that that's really interesting that the brand is going in that direction, because it's even more into this lifestyle brand that you get to be a part of an experience with them, where like the number of points that you earn, you get to like Sephora. I'm sure you're so familiar with it, Sam, the Sephora tiers.
Oh, of course. Yes, I've got that app for sure.
Well, so they like
I know what you're talking about, Holly.
like you get points and you get to go to a certain tier. And so these tiered loyalty programs are a lot of things that you guys were talking about in the episode of Takeaway. I just listened to it yesterday, and so I'm like very up to date on Takeaway.
Thanks for being a listener, Holly. A required listener.
So you get these tiers of loyalty program. That's what Sephora is. It's like the more points you get, the more things you get, the more things you have access to. And so you guys were talking about tiered loyalty programs and how people really want to be gold tier. Like that's what they want. They don't want to just be silver or bronze, like an airline.
Yeah, I mean, everything's going by wave of the airlines. It's a status, which again is exactly what lifestyle means, which is my status is I am a fan of this brand. And so, yes, drawing them deeper through those, I think Sweetgreen is calling them challenges. And again, it's broadening the experience you can have with Sweetgreen. I mean, we talked about it on the podcast, but Sweetgreen used to host a music festival, which I always loved as a big music guy, because that's unique. It's a unique extension of the brand, and the lineup of artists they had at that festival sort of communicates who they are as a brand, right? And so same thing with these challenges and bringing guests into those. Another thing I'll throw out there about their Sweet Pass is the partnerships they're doing with chefs, right? So they're also offering these unique menu items with celebrity chefs and others, and it's interesting because even though all of these things we're talking about are facilitated through technology, what Nathaniel was speaking about on the podcast was they're actually wanting to sort of make their technology invisible and emphasize the food and the human component, which I find really interesting for a brand that has been so much about the technology for now 16 years. They're wanting the technology only to enhance the rest of it, and that going forward the food is going to be important. So these partnerships with chefs and coming up with creative bowls, but all of those challenges, those experiences you were talking about, Holly, all of those things being not, play a game on your phone, but do an experience in person at the restaurant. So it just shows you, I think, that there's always that balance. You can't really replace. You can't go the full Starbucks of going deep into the metaverse and playing games. Not everybody wants to do that. Some people want that human experience.
I think most people want that human experience. I think that that's more of a desire in humans to experience other humans versus experiencing technology. We're around technology all day.
We're getting philosophical now. Tell me how you really feel, Holly.
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, I feel like it's nice to have human-to-human contact. Yesterday I had too much of it at the office, but sometimes it's nice.
I was going to say, we say via Riverside in different states.
I was going to say, there's no one else in this whole apartment. It's great.
It's wonderful. I love the lack of human contact. Okay, well, so time to get to my favorite subject. Taco Bell and Pete Davidson.
All right.
A very specific intersection, although apparently you're not the only one, so.
A very Holly intersection.
It's true.
It is. It's a very Holly intersection. And
let's see how many times I can roll my eyes in this segment.
You know what? I'll count it. I'll have a little ticker in the corner when.
Oh, great. You gave her a project.
Okay, so Taco Bell released a new commercial with Pete Davidson. They already did one in October of last year. It was their first commercial with him to really say, we apologize for the outlandish things we've done with breakfast in the past. We promise to be more tame. And they got somebody who is outlandish to do it. And so in this iteration, he's becoming Peter Davidson, which just sounds wrong to me, but never even thought his name was Peter, I'm not going to lie.
Probably his legal name.
Do you think he was born with, like, sleeves of tattoos, too?
Just like me, yes. So he's now saying, like, breakfast is going to be, like, toned down. Like, we're doing, like, a normal breakfast now. And so, I mean, I've eaten the Taco Bell breakfast. I don't prefer it. I'm not going to lie. I much prefer their regular food. I will get their regular food at, like, 9 a.m. I will get their all-day food at 9 a.m., but I will still eat Taco Bell. I just want to contribute to their breakfast business. It's not my favorite. Though I do hear Wendy's has an amazing breakfast, so maybe I'll have to try that. Giving credit to you, Sam. Your Wendy's connection. But, so, I mean, my question from all of this is breakfast back? Because it really suffered over the last 3 years. And so is breakfast finally, has it returned? I mean, McDonald's is obviously the king of breakfast, but we have all these new players who are coming up. Wendy's, I talked about, Taco Bell, Burger King. So what do you guys think about the breakfast segment?
I mean, I think it's definitely back, and I think we have the numbers to prove it from last quarter. I guess it'll be interesting to watch and see how much those sales maintained. But for example, Taco Bell, after running that campaign with Pete Davidson, had a 9% transaction growth in the breakfast day part. It totally drove Yum Brand's entire quarter, just the breakfast day part at Taco Bell. So, I mean, it's no wonder they brought it back. You get numbers like that, then yeah, you do. Credit to Taco Bell. They do a lot of outlandish things with their menu, with their marketing, but when they find something that works, they're not afraid to stick with it. Like, hey, Pete Davidson works. Relaunching the Mexican pizza works. Nacho fries. I think I read nacho fries have been back on the menu like 9 times in the last decade.
I saw that too.
It works. Just bring them back again and again. So, they do a lot of wild things, and then something works and they're like, cool, well, we'll keep doing that. And they're doing other things too. But
they're doing a lot.
Good for them. They, took a chance on Pete Davidson, who is famous for a lot of outlandish things, which, makes him a great fit for her. He's also a comedian and an actor. But especially in the fall, he was getting a lot of press attention for like his love life and things like that. And you know what? It worked. So, but, to your point, Holly, those numbers are, not everybody is seeing numbers like that at breakfast, but breakfast numbers have definitely been up fairly across the board over the past, I'd say, 2 quarters.
Yeah, I don't know that breakfast necessarily went anywhere like we thought it would go anyway. In the midst of that giant global event that happened once upon a time, a few years ago, I think that we all thought that breakfast would be the worst, that it would suffer the worst. And, Wendy's was this great case study, because Wendy's, their breakfast menu came out March of 2020, and we were like, oh no. great case study because it ended up being very, very successful. But that wasn't true across the board. Who knows? Breakfast is one of those things that is very much a part of the routine, and perhaps there's continued evidence that people are getting back into normal routines. I think this is probably more of a Taco Bell Pete Davidson story than it is necessarily a broader breakfast in the restaurant industry story, because Taco Bell is so good at pushing buttons that make people go to their restaurant and get their food. As Leanne was talking about, they are very good at marketing their food. They're very good at coming up with outlandish items, and that includes in their breakfast menu. Pete Davidson, I don't get. I'm probably not the core demographic for Pete Davidson. I'm a big fan of SNL, and he had a handful of things that he did on SNL that I enjoyed, but I have really never quite understood his appeal, because I don't think he does anything outside of being sort of the, stoner guy. But to each their own. If he resonates with Gen Z, by all means, Taco Bell is taking advantage. Good for them.
I don't really think a white guy in his mid-30s is the Pete Davidson demographic.
Which is weird because Pete Davidson is a white guy in his, late 20s, so...
He's about my age.
Okay, see, I was going to say he must be around 30. He's getting old now. He's been around for a while.
Leanne, give us the facts.
29.
Hey.
Same age.
There you go, Holly. You live in the same city.
I think he lives in Staten Island, which is not the same city as New York.
You're also a fan of Taco Bell. Just connecting some dots here.
I'm a big fan of Taco Bell. Huge fan of Taco Bell. Taco Bell, once again, I would like you to sponsor me, but they're not going to hear me. But
sponsor your what?
Just Holly. Just sponsor
Holly.
Sponsor
Holly. Walks around. Hi. Can I tell you about Taco Bell? Just a Taco Bell shirt.
I would totally wear a Taco Bell shirt to the gym. I would be the coolest person there.
Sure. Whatever you need to tell yourself.
I'm just saying. I mean, not in bright purple, but maybe black with the purple logo.
Okay.
Though it could be ombre, their new logo. I'm thinking too much about this t-shirt. You really got me into it.
Cut her off. She's gonna keep talking until the t-shirt exists.
Land the airplane, Holly. Land the airplane. Don't crash the airplane. Good Lord. Oh, my goodness.
I didn't know how to make a landing sound that didn't sound like crashing, so I just made it sound like a crash.
I don't think we needed the sound, but anyway, go ahead.
Oh, we needed the sound, Sam. That's not even a question. Don't question my sound effects because they're perfect. Perfection.
Just like this whole podcast.
Anyway, I'm going to turn it over to Ron Ruggles, our lovely, lovely coworker, who has this week's interview, which is AJ Kumaran, co-CEO of Raising Cane's. And it's a really great interview. They talk about the new benefits package that they have, which includes Leanne's favorite, $10,000 towards a down payment on your home. Leanne's ready to buy a home and work for Raising Cane's.
If you ever, I know, they're coming to New York, and so I'm saying if you're not careful, I'm going to go work at Raising Cane's and buy, a cardboard box on the side of the road is what I'll get for $10,000 down.
I was going to say.
Well, so really interesting. One of the really interesting things is that they hired a lot of the people to work in the New York store 18 months ago. So they had been training them and then they have to relocate. And it's just their company culture is really interesting. And that's what a lot of the podcast is about. But you're going to learn a lot about Raising Cane's and what a good company culture should be. I mean, they're constantly on the Glassdoor lists for best companies to work for. So it's really a good lesson in what you should be doing for your employees. And AJ speaks a lot about that and how much of a family they feel like. So it's a really good interview. Highly recommend sticking around for it. But I'm going to thank you guys first.
Thanks, Holly.
Thanks, Holly.
Go ahead, introduce yourself, AJ, and tell us a little bit about the new benefits.
So AJ Kumaran, I am the co-CEO and COO for Raising Cane's. Yes, we just brought all of our restaurant leaders, restaurant partners, restaurant support office crew members, all of them together in Dallas, also our major vendors too. to talk about what's next for Raising Cane's. Coincidentally, we were one of the first conferences to shut down and not execute right in the beginning of the pandemic. So that was March 1st of 2020. Since then, this is the first time we've been able to bring everyone together. There were roughly 2,300 people in attendance here in Dallas. Was a fun time, 3-day conference. One of the biggest learnings through the pandemic was this idea of where are we going, what's next, what are we building towards, and that's where the theme for our conference, Timeless Horizon, came in. What we're building towards is a brand that is timeless, initiatives that are timely, that propel the growth, and a clear focus that is all fueled by like a purpose-driven company. So the purpose, what we have realized, specifically Todd and I have had discussions around it, is that, why do we do this? And we do this for people. And that was, it was truly a reminder to us when we started thinking about the next phase of growth. Why do we do it for? Just less than 8 years ago, we were a small 250 restaurant, $500 million business. In the last 7 years, we've grown 7x to $3.5 billion company now. More importantly, though, during that time frame, we have now grown to over 55,000 crew members strong. One of the fastest growing chains in the restaurant business, completely. But more importantly, a place that we're really proud of. We are consistently in the best places to work across every city that we operate in. Consistently, being recognized as one of the top employers by national surveys such as done by Glassdoor, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what we're really proud of. We've been in business now for 26 years. And in those 26 years, we've given back $100 million. So all that kind of guided to what are we doing next? Where are we headed? So, as people start thinking about goals, our sort of cornerstone goal is to be one of the top 10 restaurant brands in the United States. That means a $10 billion business. That means over 150,000 crew members strong. That means over 1,500 restaurants, et cetera. And, companies usually have these plans that they announce that they work towards, and they're financially driven. For us, it was very clear for us that we need to focus on people and helping people, creating opportunities for people is how we can get there, which is the reason behind all of the initiatives that we announced. So the 3-day conference, 75% of it was all surrounded by initiatives that we were doing to help people reach their goals, their dreams, which in turn delivers the dreams and goals and the milestones for our company. We did several things. We're one of the fastest, not only just the fastest growing, the largest average unit volume businesses in the restaurant space. We're now at $5.5 million AUV per unit. We're quickly going to be about 6 soon, and aspiring to be about $8 million per unit coming up here in the next several years. And that means we need not only just best of the best people, we need a program, or we need programs to be not only attracting them, but training them, developing them, and retaining them in our business. And that only happens if everyone has got a solid career path. So thematically, what we announced was several layers of crew journey or career path for every level of crew member. For example, a new in position crew member, that's an hourly crew member who joins us. We now provide an opportunity to earn up to $3 per hour in extra compensation, very quick way, very short way. And how do you get there? We are starting now zone-based training where crew members can really hone in on something that they're interested in and that they can quickly build capabilities in, but also earn more dollars in very quickly. So look, the reality is, everyone wants a career and everyone wants to get paid well, and that's, if you cut through all the noise, that's just nuts and bolts of our business. So we are really honing into that. We've announced several new positions, both at the hourly crew member level, but also at the hourly manager and salary manager level. So management and crew members. What does it do? The higher the volume, the tougher it is to manage a restaurant. So it provides managers great, well-trained crew members who are being retained by our business instead of constantly getting turned over. We have some of the lowest turnover in the industry already, but this is going to help it further. For the crew members, we announced 4 new positions. A kitchen zone specialist, we call them bird specialist, a person who's just focused on service orientation, etc. We call them the service specialist. A person who's really focused on safety within that one restaurant, we call them the safety specialist. And then a certified trainer, because we know training is going to be the linchpin for our future. So now every single one of our, we all heard about restaurant business, buddy system, shoulder to shoulder training. They're all great, but we want to put some incentives behind it. Our trainers who are training any crew member in any of our restaurants will immediately earn $2 extra per hour on top of their wages while they are training a crew member, which is significant if you think about it. For an average wage of $15, that's just a big number. We've heard nothing but sheer excitement. We've announced 2 new management positions. One is a zone manager who now will be very focused on a zone of a restaurant, and we will have them in every meal period in a restaurant. Somebody who's specialized in kitchen, somebody who's specialized in service, somebody who's specialized in the drive-through. Those are the major zones of our restaurant. We've also announced promotion for our existing management layer across the board. So our shift managers are moving up to restaurant managers, and our operations managers are moving up to assistant restaurant leaders in charge of the whole operations of a restaurant. So big moves. We're taking up bonuses for our management, 25% immediately. And then our restaurant partner program, which you reported on, Ron, a couple of years ago, we announced the program in 2020. Just in 2022, we have paid $5.2 million in long-term incentive. That's on top of salary and bonuses. This is just long-term incentive for those 45 people who are in the program for that year. Big number for them, and also something that we're very proud of, because if they're winning, the business is also winning. And we also announced something that has been incredibly well received, and honestly, people are already going through it, which is, when we think about our managers, our restaurant leaders, it's a very hard job, right? You are taking care of people constantly, taking care of crew members constantly. So we want to take care of them for all that they're taking care of. So we thought of all ways possible to do that. We provided them some great perks, such as like concierge service to book their doctor's appointment, so that they don't have to worry about it, financial planning advice. Individual financial planner assigned to each leader who they can call and then get their advice on what to do. So they can plan for their future, plan for their kids going to college, what have you. But this week, we also announced in that conference, we want everyone to pursue their dream of buying their first home. So we said that when you're buying your first home, we're going to pay you $10,000 towards closing cost. That has been incredible. It was like really touching for me personally to be able to deliver that message. We have several people already going through it. Lots of excitement out there. Also, we're in an aggressive growth phase. 14 new markets is what we will enter in the next 12 months. So we have announced a new traveling trainer program. And, this kind of caters to everybody. There are people who just want to travel and be in different places. It helps them. There are people who are really passionate about training, going planting canes in the new communities. It'll help them. And there are people who are trying to learn more about training that we can move up into different roles to take care of them as well. We are formalizing a program where they will go live in a new city, such as New York is coming up. Our flagship is opening on June 21st. For that opening, there will be 10 very experienced restaurant leaders, restaurant partners from across the system. They'll be living in New York City. They'll be well compensated and bonus for doing what they're doing, and really coach local restaurant leaders, restaurant partners, managers, crew members, so that when they're ready to open the doors, they're really set, ready to go. So I can go on and on. We announced a lot of crew benefits. We invested about $160 million back into wages about 18 months ago. This is on top of all of that, and it's a big number.
Who qualifies for the, say, the New York training program? How do you pick the individuals?
So we had overwhelming amount of people who wanted to go for that program. So they go through a three-step process. Obviously, after they apply and after there's some pre-qualifications. After they do that, we go through a rigorous restaurant review to see what kind of restaurant do they operate today, and also they have to get great support from their multi-restaurant leaders as well as their crew members. So from both sides, they recognize these folks as great, holistic leaders who can train others. And then the third step is having a commitment to be able to live in a place like New York City for a course of 6 to 8 months. So that's how we selected them. It was a hard thing to select, to be honest. We had over 110 people who wanted to do that. We could send only 10. So we picked the best of the best 10 to go there.
And how about the qualifications for the home assistant closing cost benefit?
You just need to be a restaurant partner or a restaurant leader with us. We're fortunate. We have great leaders, so they all qualify. We want them to qualify. We want them to purchase their new home. Of course, that feeling is special.
How many units do you have open right now?
700.
And of those 700, you had 2,300 people here in Dallas. What levels of
So we are a growth company, right? So the invitees to that conference were individual restaurant leaders and partners. So that number is roughly about 900. The reason being 700 to 710, that's open. Then there's about 100 coming. They're already in training. So about 900 of those in there. Then we had all of our restaurant support office members. That is about 900 to 1,000, actually a little more than 1,000 people there. Then we also had all of our vendor partners in there, like vendors and suppliers. So they all were in there.
And I saw Kane, the dog, was there as well.
Yes, sir. She joined for a little bit of the conference. Yes.
Which of these benefits do you think is going to be most beneficial for raising canes going forward?
I think all of them, right? Because it's about doing the right thing and growing the right way. It is sort of like asking which of your kid is your favorite kid. It's that legacy that we're building. When you think of it as a family, that's a family legacy. In this, it's like a Kane's legacy, and Timeless Horizon is about that. It's about not chasing a number or a goal. We're not trying to, let's do this so that we can do the next thing as public or what have you. That is not the thing. It is about growing a truly timeless brand and a business. So it goes beyond just one initiative. One thing I know for a fact in my head is that we're going to do more next year and the year after and the month after, so there'll be more coming. We truly want to be industry's best when it comes to everything that is being done in this industry.
It's interesting you bring that up because after just finishing the power list with 25 general managers, to a person, they all said people was what made the difference in their brand. How are you thinking these benefits will improve your people?
I think we will continue to attract the great talent that we have been attracting, but I think these structured training, development, and incentive programs would incent people to go through those training and stick to it quicker and more often and for a longer term. And third thing, I think we'll retain them longer. For example, like now, let's say you're joining as an hourly crew member, you're going through college at the same time, and you all of a sudden see, I have a clear career path I could follow here. I don't need to just focus separately on work and college. I could be working on my college, take advantage of all the educational benefits that Canes is giving me, but at the same time pursue a path with Cane's at the same time, right? So we have plenty of those stories. In fact, I was in St. Louis 2 days ago visiting the market, and 3 of our general managers, restaurant leaders, and they are, just graduating from their college, but they started as crew members, took advantage of our educational program, and 2 of them are going to be restaurant partners soon. I mean, which is incredible, at their age, at their time in life, to be chasing to be a millionaire is pretty amazing.
What year did you join Cane's, AJ?
2014 summer.
In those almost 10 years, what would you say the biggest change in how the company approaches people has been?
So when I joined in 2014, we had roughly a little under 200 restaurants, and we were predominantly Texas, Louisiana company. We had a few restaurants outside of that, and those were franchised restaurants. We have since then decided to just be a company owned and operated growth ecosystem, and we've really put a lot of effort into our people. We have invested heavily into growing markets and setting up business unit teams way ahead of time. For example, I talked about New York City. We haven't opened a restaurant in New York City yet. That's going to open on June 21st. We have had teams being trained and ready to go there over a year ago. So they've been in training. Gosh, the multi-restaurant leader who's going to manage that restaurant joined us 18 months ago. So they are Caniacs and ready to roll by the time we give them the keys.
What traits do you think a good, solid restaurant leader requires in 2023?
I pause because it's a combination. I don't think it's not just qualification or knowledge that they carry. I think it's also a support system that they need. I think the way to think about this is, for a restaurant leader, or really a distributed business model leader, whatever that may be, retail restaurant, I think you need 3 things. A brand that is very strong, intentional, and purposeful and clear. That's very much needed. Then they need an industry-leading support system, which is multiple things, which is things like accounting and back office support, all the way into, hey, I need on-the-ground support on understanding how to do marketing, for example, because it's tough to find the person who can do everything. Those jack of all trades restaurant leader, I think that's a bit of a fallacy, in my opinion. I don't think as a leader of a business today, I don't know everything about every aspect. I'm not the expert, but I have experts in construction, experts in real estate, experts in marketing, who's all supporting me to grow our business. Likewise, in a restaurant, I don't expect my restaurant leader to be an expert in marketing, training, recruiting, all of it. I expect them to be an expert in getting all the help, putting it together, and executing that plan. That's what we expect them to be. So I said, I said the brand and the purpose, everything behind it. Then I said also the support. And then the third thing is, we need to provide them like an industry-leading development, training, and a career path. They have to be very clear. The combination of all of that makes what we call the leader of that business, who is really at that point capable of not just understanding the brand, but understanding how to leverage support system to deliver on its mission. Like our people, I wouldn't say they're that's why I don't call them operations people. They're restaurant people. Restaurant is far beyond operations. It's not just cooking and serving. It is community, it is marketing, which are 2 different things completely. It is standards, it is people, it is coaching, it is taking care of people. It's all of the above. It's a very, very complex role.
As co-CEO, what was the response you received from the introduction of these new benefits?
It was incredible, honestly. It was humbling. at the closeout of the conference, I can count on one hand the number of times I felt speechless and didn't know what to say, and that was one moment. It was truly humbling. There were tears shed, there was emotion, me included. We're a family, and for me, I spend more time with our people in this business than I spend with my own family. And that was truly reflected when I stood on that podium and talked about things. It was also very fun because that conference that we canceled was supposed to be in Cancun in 2020, and I remember standing in Cancun, and I was already there, ready to welcome people. They were coming in on that Sunday, and I was there on Saturday, ready to welcome people. And Saturday at 9 o'clock in the morning, I decided to cancel the conference, So it has been on the books. So people have been constantly asking, hey, when do we go to Cancun? Because that was a spousal celebratory trip. All the spouses, everybody come, you relax and enjoy for a minute. So because of all the overwhelming requests, when is it? At the end of the conference this time, I said, you know what? This question has been out there. Let's go to Cancun next year. So we announced the date. It's in September of 2024. The room just, you call it erupted when people just see a big concert. It was more of like an emotional eruption, It was kind of like, we are going somewhere sort of thing.
How many stores are you going to open in New York by the end of this year?
By the end of this year, definitely 2, maybe 3. But we have a strong pipeline in New York. We have about 30 different locations in development.
And what other new markets are you looking at?
Oh gosh, we have several in the books. We're expanding. We just started expanding into Florida this year. That market, we just opened 3 restaurants yesterday. We opened one in Noblesville, Indiana, one in Phoenix, Arizona, and one in Tallahassee, Florida, which was a brand new market. That was yesterday. We're firing up our openings in Maryland, in DC area, in Boston, Massachusetts. We're looking at some locations in Seattle, Washington. That's going to come up. Atlanta, Georgia, that area, at our first restaurant just opened about a month ago. We've opened just under 40 locations already this year.
Whoa. How many are you planning to open across the system this year?
100 this year.
And you had opened 100 last year, right?
We didn't get to 100. 100 was the goal. Last year was a tough year with all of the issues around supply chain, construction. 100 was the goal. We didn't get there. We got to 90, which is an important question, right? Those are the moments where those 90 were not easy. They were hard, but they were right. Like I could have squeezed in easily 100 last year, but I left them shut down with the keys in my pocket towards the back end of the year, because that's holidays. That is not opening the right way. That is doing things in a haste. We're here for decades and decades to come. So we're going to make the right things, right moves. So that's why this whole timeless horizon really inspires me, because, just don't always be so bound on numbers and facts and figures. They're all important, but there is something more important beyond all of that, which is this idea of timeless horizon,
Oh, what question did I not ask you that you would like to answer?
Let me see. I can't think of anything, Ron. I appreciate, as always, the opportunity to speak with you. I'm excited. I am honored and humbled to be a part of this journey with all the 55,000 people that we have. So if there is anything that I would get out there, is that come on, join in our journey, give us a chance. We have lofty goals, lofty aspirations. We're sort of that championship team. We don't want to do it one time and forget about it. We are like the ones who take the trophy and cheer for a minute and go right back to work for the next game again. So we need a lot of champions to join us and join in our journey, and we'll make it worthwhile.
Well, I wish you many more Super Bowl rings in that, and thank you for the time today.